Hi there, this is Katie Covey, and this is the overview, the Leaders Lab overview for our October 2023 packet on heritage. Couple of things I just wanted to mention. This is also known as the Weird Carrot episode, and I'll show you it just as a, here we go. It's the Weird Carrot episode. I'll tell you about that in a sec. So in October, the theme is the gifts of our heritage. And for children, I'm approaching it the gifts of our roots, the roots of our different things that we're going to have the lenses for. So the first of 5 is the gift of staying close to our roots. The second is the gifts of reclaiming our roots, and that's connected to Indigenous Peoples Day. The third is the gifts of our LGBTQ and questioning plus heritage. This is that month of LGBTQ plus and questioning, whole month of heritage. The fourth is the gift of being rooted in science and reason. That has a little wink to our Article 2 amendment, which added back into our inspirations the science and reason connection from our sources. And I also want to just mention that I love the tree that's on our cover. That is just a beautiful cover that Susan, our graphic designer, added to our publication. The gifts of our faith is our overarching theme. What things can we give and receive in our faith and from our faith? That will be the theme the whole year. And so that's why we call it the gifts of heritage, or for the children, the gifts of our roots. I wanted to mention that a couple people are asking about pictures of their gift box, which is what we're suggesting in terms of a Wonder Box on the RE Facebook page. And I hope if you have a picture of a gift box you're using, you would post it for the benefit of everyone. We are a sharing circle. So the first session, the gift of staying close to our roots. So for the Wonder Box, I suggest using a root vegetable. So I went to my garden and I pulled out a couple of carrots. Now, just to prove to you, I have a normal carrot. There it is, and that's a root vegetable, the gift of our roots. But then the second one I pulled out is pretty much a sci-fi. Look at this thing. It's pretty amazingly horrendous. I'm not sure we're going to even eat it. But this is the reason I'm calling this episode the Weird Carrot episode, because, boy, look at that thing. Okay, we're going to just put that right down there. You saw that weird carrot. It's from my garden. I promise it's not nuclear. So the story that's in the tellable tale section of the first session is called The Little Oak Tree. It was told to me by my mentor, Barbara Marshman, at a Renaissance module in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Back in the 80s, when I was a young DRE, I got to be mentored by this author of Holidays and Holy Days. How Can I Know What to Believe? She was just a beautiful, beautiful person. In fact, when we called her to come to Santa Fe as the Renaissance leader, she said, Katie, I would love to come, but I'm 84 years old and I might die before November. So you better have a backup. She was just a very straightforward, practical woman. So it's my pleasure to share the Little Oak Tree story with you. And I wanted to show you. So I had saved a little oak tree back in my garden that had started to grow. It had a little acorn. This isn't it. I went out there about 2 days ago to get ready for this recording, and a squirrel had dug it up and must have taken it somewhere. This is the same squirrel that keeps stealing my tomatoes and burying them as if they're acorns. He's weird. So this is the only one. It doesn't have an acorn and the root broke off, but it's the best I can do. There's the oak leaves. It is a little oak sapling. So if you don't have an oak sapling, how many of us do growing in our backyard? Just use a little twig. The children will understand. And of course, your other prop is a little mushroom. And that's easy to find at the store, isn't it? So I wanted to share with you that, well, it's not the oak tree I thought it was going to be, but it's close. We'll put that right there. Oh. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to say about this first session, session A, the gift of staying close to our roots, is that there are examples of 2 ways to play the knots game, one for a group of 2 to 5 children and one for a group of larger children, 6 and plus. And those 2 ways are the ways we're trying to provide adaptations for small groups now. And it's a little different than the traditional way of playing roots, but it's pretty good. And I think you'll enjoy it. The next one, session 2 or B, it's celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day. Now, I learned this creation story as an Iroquois creation story way back when I was a little girl in Sunday school. And the example we can give about this now is that Iroquois is not what these people called themselves. They called themselves the Haudenosaunee. And they're trying to call themselves that now. Iroquois was a name given to them by their French colonizers. And we're helping them reclaim their roots by using the term Haudenosaunee. It's that beautiful creation story of the turtle and how Sky Woman comes down and lands on the turtle. In addition, in the second session is a map, an interactive map. And I hope you'll get a laptop or use the technology that you might have available to you to go exploring. You can type in your zip code or Longmont, Colorado, in my case, and you can see what Indigenous peoples live here or used to live here. It's all about helping Indigenous people and ourselves reclaim the roots of their culture and their heritage. The third session, LGBTQ questioning and plus Heritage Month. I picked 4 people that gave me good traction for explaining what kind of roots we might be reclaiming for LGBTQ plus peoples. The first person is Carol Ann Duffy. She is the first poet laureate of Britain that is a woman, that is a Scot, and that is an openly LGBTQ person. Talk about synchronicity and intersectionality. She also wrote the picture book that I'm suggesting as the one of the stories, so that we can say, look what we would be missing if Carol Ann Duffy had not been given opportunities to be a children's book author and to be a poet. The next person is Ian McKellen. And of course, Sir Ian, plays Gandalf in the Lord of the Rings series. And he's also an activist for HIV and AIDS support in Great Britain. The third person is Alan Turing. He is a man who decoded the Enigma machine, which was the coding that the Nazis were using. He decoded it using his genius as a mathematician. And pretty much a lot of people say he saved Britain. And yet he was treated horribly when they found out he was homosexual in the probably late 40s, maybe 50s, and eventually committed suicide, they think, because of the way he was treated. Although that isn't positive. And it's nice to know that he's finally being honored. And the fourth person is Laverne Cox, who is in Orange is the New Black. She's an actress and activist and the first trans person nominated for an Emmy Award. I also want to lift up a little activity I suggest about chimera butterflies. They are butterflies that have two different wings. Most wings we think of are identical, but these are non-binary insects, and they have two different things. And the fact that this exists in nature is a nice way of exploring the fact that this is not something that is so out of thought. It's in nature. The fourth is the gifts of being rooted in science and reason. This is the little wink we give to Article 2 conversations, that we wanted to add this back in as a people. It was voted on at General Assembly in June 2023 and passed. And so we put back in the wonder of science and reason as one of the sources of our inspiration. There's two things I wanted to lift up about this session. The first is the story of writing to Dr. Einstein. It's in this book, Today's Children and Yesterday's Heritage, written by Sophie Foz in 1953. And it describes how she led a group of children through the process of thinking about, well, what do scientists think of prayer and God? And then she said, well, let's ask them. And she helped them write to several eminent scientists of their day. Einstein was one of them. He wrote back. It was in German. They had to take it to a translator. And they found out how he talked about the transcendent and prayer and God. It's a fascinating little story. And then the final thing about being rooted in science and reason is to do the Diet Coke and Mentos geyser experiment. I wish it was a once-a-year ritual that we perform to celebrate science and curiosity. Be aware, though, it will send up a 20-foot geyser. You put Mentos in a Diet Coke liter bottle, and this is what it comes out with. It's wonderful, and it's fun, and it's sticky, so make sure you do it outside. And then save one so that your parents, when they come out, they can see another 20-foot geyser. The final one is honoring and grieving our roots. This is the Samhain and pagan roots session. It's around Halloween. And there's two things I wanted to lift up about this session. The first is I suggest the book Badger's Parting Gifts by Susan Varley. You can see that the story has what looks like sort of wind in the willows. It's a story about Badger who dies, goes down the long tunnel, and all of his friends remember him in different ways. This year, my family has experienced a lot of death, and we gave each of the grandchildren that book for their own family reading. And I used it all the time to talk about death when I did that with the congregational children in the places I served. And then the second one is the idea of the memory tree ritual. So we started with the little oak tree. We talk about the roots of all these heritages, and we end with a memory tree ritual. So there's a tree theme throughout the whole month. This memory tree ritual is writing on leaves the things you remember about the loved ones you've lost. And don't forget, it's all beings, so it's pets too. I want to close with, and I've lost, here it is. The way I closed my welcome letter. I hope this month helps you connect more deeply with the roots that you have too. May you and your teachers remember that you are nourishing roots to the children you companion. Through the gifts and time you give, you are also deepening our children's connection to the roots of their faith. What a blessing you are. Amen. Blessed be. And thanks for joining me.